GRINDSET, inside the mind of successful entrepreneurs with your host, Cynthia Daniels and Williams Brack.
Welcome back to another episode of GRINDSET. I'm your host, Cynthia Daniels, Chief Event Strategist of Cynthia Daniels and Company.
And I'm your co-host, Williams Brack, your favorite banker.
And today we have Camille Leigh, founder of Camille Leigh Photography. You know, what's really cool is that she had a career where she wanted to teach, and she decided to follow her passion into wedding, and that led into photography. So we have a lot to learn today.
And I've seen Camille's work, and I'm always impressed by creatives that turn into business people. So I'm really looking forward to this interview to figure out how she determined pricing and where she's going to go next. You're listening to GRINDSET, and we'll be right back after the break with Camille Leigh Photography.
GRINDSET.
I'm Cynthia Daniels, host of GRINDSET. Are you looking to start a business? Do you need tips on how to scale up? Get it on GRINDSET. On this show, our guests will keep you listening. What's your GRINDSET? If you happen to miss some of our episodes, make sure you check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast provider.
GRINDSET on the KUDZUKIAN Network. KUDZUKIAN.
We are so excited to have Camille Leigh, the Camille Leigh, founder of Camille Leigh Photographer, with us today on GRINDSET. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
We're glad to have you.
Glad to be here.
Yes, and I have been a fan for years, so we are just so excited to find out a little bit more about your journey. You're a very well sought after photographer, and I don't really know a lot about your history and a lot about how you came to love this craft. So we're just going to jump right into this interview, if that's okay with you.
I'm here for it. Let's go.
All right. So what is Camille Leigh Photography, and how did you get started?
Currently, it's well known as a wedding photography company. People come to me when they want to have their wedding documented, their moments captured, and they don't want to have a hard time doing it. So
you're the one to go to.
Yeah, I like to tell people that I feel like I just say it all the time. Taking photos doesn't have to be hard. This experience doesn't have to be hard, especially when it comes to photography. Mm-hmm. So I just take people as they are. We go to where they want to go, take pictures. I just make them feel comfortable and just make them feel like they're on a date with a camera in their face. Right now, we're doing wedding photography. We also focus on boudoir, and we sprinkle in a little extra here and there.
And for the uninformed like me, can you tell me what boudoir is? Boudoir.
I can tell you, yes.
Yeah.
Boudoir is... in the simplest of terms, it is where a woman decides to take photos, more commonly just in like lingerie, in something they feel comfortable in. Some people get them done for gifts for their significant other. I always say that's amazing, but I want you to first do it for you.
Oh, wow.
So I tell them, we're going to do this with the end goal of you giving it to X, Y, and Z, but I want you to get in here and feel a little different about yourself. So first of all, we're doing it for us. Yes. And then if you like the pictures, you can share them. But it's more something, photos you get done to just feel better about yourself and just see how sexy you are without thinking you have to conform to what everyone thinks you have to be.
Okay. And from the wedding photography standpoint, are you just taking pictures at the church, or are you doing destination weddings? You're following them out into a barn wedding?
I'm a therapist.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So yes, in the general sense of things, you come to me, you're getting married. Where are you getting married? Okay, you're getting married at a barn. Great. So let's talk about before you're getting married. Do you care about taking pictures in your dress? Do you care about taking pictures with your girls? Mm-hmm. Does the guy want pictures? All right, good. We're going to do first look pictures. We're not. Okay, we're going to do the ceremony. We're going to get your portraits, family pictures, reception. In the most simplest of terms, yes, that is what I do. Wherever you want to go and do that, wherever your wedding may be, they just come to me and we can go from there.
So it really sounds like a process.
It is. I have relationships with my clients, the shortest of times, maybe 2 months, the longest, about 2.5 years.
Wow.
Because, they usually book about a year to 15 months out. Then you have the wedding day, you have the turnaround time for the photos. So that can be 6 to 8 weeks, depending on the season. And then afterwards, you need to give me your order. Do you have a canvas? Do you have an album? All right. So the process can be pretty long. So I encourage people that like me before you book me. It's okay. Right. Everyone's not for me. I'm not the photographer for everyone. I have plenty of friends I can send you to. But like me, we'll go from there.
So on GRINDSET, we love to help listeners understand how people just kind of became entrepreneurs. So at what point did you fall in love with photography and then saying, you know what, I want to do this for a living?
I wanted to be a doctor.
Get it out. No way.
It is, there's no way to do it. I wanted to be a pediatric anesthesiologist.
Very specific.
This is what I wanted to do.
Okay. So you wanted to put kids to sleep.
Yes. Okay. I wanted to be a doctor, and I heard anesthesiologists make a whole lot of money.
Right.
So I was aiming high.
Yes.
I went through all kind of programs. I was in East High, being in the health sciences program, AP program.
Okay.
Did all kind of things, worked on cadavers, got to college, and I couldn't hack the math. It's the weirdest thing. I can't do algebra, but I can do calculus. So we're not going to talk about that. Okay. Then from there, I fell in love with philosophy, just as fun. And I was like, hey, you can't do this outside of college, but it's fun. Start doing Spanish. And I was like, yeah, I want to be a translator. I want to work, for the White House. And I want to do Peace Corps and do all this stuff. And end up graduating with both of those degrees. And in the process, I was working as like a computer lab person at the University of Memphis and at FedEx, and I don't know, in between all that, and I worked at the DMV as like, the person that gives you a license.
Oh, you're one of those people.
I knew you looked familiar.
Oh gosh.
Right.
They get a bad rap.
They do.
People come in with an attitude. Like, I tried my best and I did a good job.
Okay.
I was good at my job, but people are horrible.
Okay.
So in between all that, you just get sick of something. You're like, what else is out there? Yeah. I know, like, I've always been like a really creative person. I like decor. I like pretty things. And somewhere along the way, I don't even know where it started, I kind of start following this one planner on Instagram. And this was in the, Instagram. This was 2011 or so.
Okay.
So I'm following this planner on Instagram, and she makes everything so pretty. Like, she does the florals. She crafts these beautiful treatments. She plans the wedding and does all these things. And I was like, I want to do that. And my mom would have events all the time. Even back then, she was throwing parties and events. I'm like, Mom, you're extra. And she's like, can you decorate it for me? You make everything pretty.
Yeah.
And so I would do that and kind of start doing that. And I was like, hey, I'm pretty good at this. Everybody was like, oh, everything looks so nice. And so I was like, I'm going to be a wedding planner and do decor and all this stuff. I was pretty good at it.
Okay.
I'm a type B with type A tendencies. So just enough, but enough to kind of get it in track. And so I was like, well, I got to get a website together. I got to get a portfolio together. And back then, well, I don't want to say back then, but I couldn't find a photographer. I didn't know where to look. I didn't know like to Google or Facebook.
Right.
It wasn't like, it wasn't that deep then. It was more so get the phone book, because
right, we had phone books.
Yeah, so I went on eBay and I got a camera. I heard Nikon was good, so I got a little $500 camera is what I could afford.
Okay. And
I asked my friends, I was like, hey, do you have anybody that couples that want to let me try to take their picture? And I asked my my profile, I was like, hey, can I take a picture of your kid? I made this little tutu, and and that's kind of where it started, just asking friends and family to take their pictures, and they kind of start liking it, and I just kept going with it.
Hold up, I heard profile. What does that mean?
I am a member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated.
Shout out to the Zetas.
Yes.
Our producer got very excited.
I mean, that comes up and you're like, what's about to happen?
Right. No off the wall questions just yet. But no, we're just getting into the meat of the story. So you went from wanting to be a doctor to then becoming a wedding planner and now a photographer. So I think there's definitely a lesson in that that we can touch on next segment.
Well, the major key I wrote is that dreams evolve and just trust the process.
Yeah.
And so when we get back after the break, we're going to talk about the process, because taking a picture and running a business sometimes can be different things.
Yeah.
And so when we get back,
different.
The number one thing I want to talk about, because it's very hard for creatives, is how you determine pricing.
Oh, gosh.
And so we'll be right back after the break.
GRINDSET.
I'm Leslie Lynn Smith, President and CEO of Epicenter, and we've partnered with KUDZUKIAN. Each episode, hosts Cynthia Daniels and Williams Brack talk shop with Memphis' brightest and best entrepreneurs. Check it out by downloading the KUDZUKIAN app or find us on your favorite podcast provider.
KUDZUKIAN.
Welcome back to GRINDSET. We're here with Camille Leigh Photography and her business partner, Dee Rochelle. And so I want to talk about one of the most critical things and probably the hardest thing for creatives. What was your process for determining how you were going to charge for your services, and how did that evolve over time?
Oh gosh, that is something that people struggle with at all levels. Mm-hmm. I will say from beginning until they're up charging $10,000. So yeah, the way I did it, and other people may agree or can relate. I didn't think I was worth it. Like not in the. When I say that, I really mean,
so I will start.
Yeah, I didn't know what I was doing. So I started off asking people to model for me. And then when it started, people, being receptive to it and liking it, I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll charge $75. So $75.
Yeah.
And you got like an hour, 2-hour session. You got as many pictures as I edited.
Sign me up for that.
Oh, wait, and I would send you a little box afterwards with the CD, and I would put Saint Germain in there, like a little Saint Germain, and just like a little branding. It would be a little tiny box. Yeah, I've always liked branding. I still do. It's a thing.
She excels there.
Yeah, pretty good at branding. But so yeah, I would do all this for $75, and at that time, that's what I thought I was worth. And as like time kept progressing, I did Groupons. Like the Groupon ad would be like you would buy it for $50. I would get just $18. I would get about $18 out of that. Groupon would get the rest, and I would still deliver the same experience. And so I did that until the Groupon people just drove me away. Not the company, the people that use Groupon. I can't do it anymore. So I went from
Tiffany
that.
Haddish on you.
I mean, it's great, but it's just you get a certain kind of
certain mindset that comes in.
Yeah, and it's not to say anything about people who pay lower, but it's just a little pushy.
Yeah.
So from there, I went to charge about $150 for the same thing. I think I stopped doing the disc at some point. And it just went up from there. So I think, and I've heard this as well, the market will always dictate your value. So now
major key alert.
Right. The way that you're actually supposed to do it is you sit there and you have a realistic conversation with yourself and you say, okay, how much is my time worth? So if you say, I want to make, you walk it backwards. You say, hey, I want to make about $10,000 a year on the side doing this. Okay. So how much time does it take to do this? You divide it by the hours and you see how much you're making hourly and then what you're putting into it as far as how much do your materials cost, how much is gas? Because if you're paying $15,000, you want to make $10,000, it's not really worth it. So you need to break it down and see if you're making $5 an hour, if you're making $15 an hour, and if it's worth it. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. And then you can test it. You can charge higher. If they're paying for it, keep charging.
Now this sounds like great business advice from a philosophy and Spanish major. So I got to give you major kudos for one, that math, but two, that process of evolving over time.
Yeah. So on GRINDSET, we also want to know, at what point did you know your business was really working? Again, it has evolved from that $75 price point to what you offer now. So what was that light bulb moment for you?
When I thought that this could probably be something, I think it came in maybe 2 parts.
Okay.
I think when I did my first wedding and I was like, this is the price.
Yeah.
And she said, okay. And I was like, okay. So that was the thing.
Okay.
And then when I started making a decent amount of money and when my 9-to-5 started being a hindrance to my side hustle.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, well, this is my job. This ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
But it was like this thing I enjoy and like to do and it makes me money.
Yeah.
It was like my job was getting in the way of that. So for a long time, I juggled both, which a lot of people do.
Sure.
It's now scary.
Yeah.
To let go of stability.
It is. It's really
every 2 weeks you get a nice
check.
Yeah.
You know it's coming.
I know that life.
Yeah, you're putting up with some stuff, but you got the check. You know the rent's paid. You know MLGW is taken care of.
Right.
You know, but it got to the point where I was making more on this than I was in my 9-to-5. Wow. Not much more, but it was enough to be like, wow,
it was enough to
I can drop
away.
one. Yeah. Now, most people can do that. You know, they can make this much and drop the other one. For me, it was kind of like, I'm either going to quit or get fired.
That's I keep calling you.
No. I was a great employee. I had a very incompetent manager. I had a very easy job.
Okay.
But he made my job really hard.
Wow.
And maybe that was the universe trying to push you out.
I think it was. Most things that usually happen to me is because something happened and I had to react to it.
Right.
So I'm usually uncomfortable in my space and something has to shake me out of it. So it was it was like, I need to build this up because I don't think I'm going to have a job much longer. So it was, but for me, photography was kind of like the safety net.
But you always knew your value. You were a good employee. And so, DeRochelle, tell us what your parents told you about value. And
Oh, my grandmother, she is a cosmetologist she's been doing it for a while, and she looked at me and she said, the price that you charge shows how much you value yourself. So it's pretty much the same way Cammy said. You look at how much you charge hourly. How much is an hour of my time worth? How much experience do I have to back that? Because they pay for your mind.
Right.
You can't reproduce
Major
my
key.
mind. So, and my father does it as well. He's an entrepreneur, and so he said the same thing.
I love that. And so one other thing I want to kind of back up to. So you said you went on eBay and bought a $500 camera. When did you start investing back into your business as
Great
well?
question.
When I wanted to be better. For me, I guess I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. Even now, I'm always buying new gear. I have this thing I call an oh shit kit, and I bring it to weddings with me. And it has safety pins.
It's
it has
amazing.
Double-sided tape. It has alcohol just in case somebody's tripping.
in case.
Just a little bit. So I like to be prepared, and I want to be able to always give someone the best experience. So I'm always trying to tweak and get better. I always say you're going to be an eternal student, and I have no problem with that.
Yes.
Like I will go.
That's a major
key.
major GRINDSET key.
I think people get too comfortable. They'll say, I know how to do it. I'm like, you ain't that good. You need to, that's the problem. You have people that they've been taking photos for 15 years, and you're like, you look like you've been doing it for like 6 months. Like, what have you been doing these 15 years? Like, have you not been trying to, I tweak my presets at least once a year because I'm not happy anymore.
Okay. Now, what's the preset?
It's a glorified filter. It really is.
Okay.
When you edit the picture.
Yeah, it's what separates my photo from this photo. Because we can take the same photo and the little spice we put on it is different. So
that's why you stand out to me.
yeah.
Now, as a
you pay for her
non-photographer, how are the filters you use for your work different from the filters on Instagram?
Because they're professional.
I'm just curious.
I mean, I feel like I have a lot more control.
And I think the equipment she's using, right?
Yeah, the equipment sets it apart, but I have a lot more control. Like, you have a limit you can go with those filters. I've tried them; they're great, but you wouldn't want to, put filters on your wedding pictures.
I don't think you
can't
want to
pick
pay
skin tone.
$3,000 for me to run your pictures through an Instagram filter.
Yeah.
You would probably want it way more professional.
That's more than fair, actually.
Yeah.
Great answer.
Yeah.
And so we'll be right back after the break to explore what's next for Camille Leigh Photography. You've been listening to GRINDSET, and we'll be right back.
GRINDSET. Riffin' on jazz.
When two friends get together to kick it
about jazz, it's called Riffin' on Jazz.
Catch us riffing on jazz every week right here on your favorite broadcast or podcast platforms.
Riffin' on jazz on the KUDZUKIAN Network. KUDZUKIAN! GRINDSET on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Back with Camille Leigh and DeRochelle of Camille Leigh Photography. And, we're going to look back at your business and then look ahead to find out what's next. For everybody that's listening out there, tell us about some of the lessons you've learned as an entrepreneur, having your own photography business.
Ooh, you can break that down so many different ways.
Okay.
Well, a lesson I'm in now is, I think, trying to make sure I'm managing time well. Like, if you can come in on that, if you can come in kind of managing your time well and holding yourself to standards, blocking off time, you're already ahead of the game.
Okay.
Like, you have to manage yourself, because being an entrepreneur, it's very easy. Like, when you're 9 to 5, sometimes I want to go back to a 9 to 5, and I'm like, you're tripping.
Because
structure.
of
The structure.
Yes,
You don't take it home with you.
No.
There's a cutoff.
Yeah.
Like, when you leave, the work you left will be there in the morning. Like, as an entrepreneur, you're thinking, okay, do I need to buy this?
Yep.
Do I need to put this on a schedule? I need to call this person. I need to follow up with this. It never turns off.
Right.
So structure is a lesson I'm still tweaking and learning, but just being honest with yourself and having structure, you'll start off just really good right there.
That's really honest. And so tell us one of the first successes you remember as an entrepreneur?
I don't know. It's like, how do you define success? Honestly, if I'm just being really, really honest,
Please.
I think a success for me was when my client told me that I did a really good job and that they were really excited and just really happy, because I am literally my worst critic. But when they were like, this is amazing, thank you so much. And they were like telling their friends, and they're just online and just like, that's success to me. Like, that makes me happy. You're happy that the thing you entrusted me to do worked out and that you're satisfied, because it is hard to make people happy these days.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure because of what you do, is it mostly referrals for business?
Yeah, like I've done, I advertising is great. I still do advertising from time to time. I'm not the best, but the majority, I would say 90% or so of my business comes from referrals. Like, people will find me via Instagram.
That's amazing.
But they got there some kind of way. They saw
Somebody
a person's
told them
picture.
to find you.
Yeah, and they went to, they'll just stop at Instagram. They won't say how they got to Instagram, because Instagram's huge.
It's
Anybody.
Random.
Yeah, it's like, how did you land on my page? Did someone tell you about this chick? Or like,
Yeah.
how'd it go? So yeah, word of mouth is huge. That's why I just try to treat people well, and I'm big on karma. Like, you do good, you get good.
Now, here on GRINDSET, we know the grind takes sacrifices. And so what are some of the sacrifices you've made to continue to improve and continue to grow your business?
You never turn it off. Like, that's the biggest sacrifice to me. Like, I really can't. I cut it off. Like, I'll put my phone over here, and I tell my clients, hey, if you love me, don't text me after 8 o'clock. Can't wait till tomorrow. Like, you know, I'm working I'm working weddings on the weekends. Just have grace with me and let me contact you on a Monday. Like, I think that's the biggest sacrifice for me, because I'm such a people pleaser and I want to help and give so much. I have to tell myself to stop. Like, I have to turn it off. I have to separate it at some point. Like, I'll have, like, later this year, I will have a business phone. Like, the one I have will be in a drawer. I'll have my personal phone, and nobody, like, I love you, but I have to, just for my own sanity.
So customers are calling you after 8?
Yes. I mean, not all of them, but you, my biggest thing, like, if you're going to text me, especially if we don't just kick it like that and just say, they don't even say, hey, sometimes. Like, it'll be, did you get the thing I sent you? Or, text me or call. It'll just be the random thing. Like, I've gotten texts at 3 o'clock in the morning. I've got calls at 11 o'clock at night. And I'm that kind of person. I'm like, the nerve. Like, but I have to realize it's a customer service experience. But they don't see a company. They see a person, which is fine.
Yeah.
But, there's the more personal aspect of it. But you have to kind of cut it off at a certain point.
And final thing I'm kind of curious about is, how do your customers pay you? Is it all up front? Is it all at the end? Is it installments? Is it a 70% deposit? Like, how do they pay you? Like, how does it work?
So it can, I try to make it simple, like I say. For like portrait sessions and boudoir, it's customarily everything up front. I learned a long time ago, I used to show up to sessions and people weren't there. And you couldn't get them on the phone. So I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. So for sessions in boudoir, it's normally everything up front. If people were like, that's a lot, I can't do it, or I don't trust you like that, we can do half, and then you do the rest about a week or two before, if it makes you feel more comfortable. But then people come to me, I say, go to my reviews, there's this, I wouldn't be in business as long, you would hear about it.
I'm legit, right? I'm legit.
You would hear about it. For weddings, we generally do about 35% down, and the rest is due 2 months before your wedding date. Because, you don't want to have it 2 weeks before. You're stressing out. That's when people start to have the breakdowns. So you want to go ahead and have everything done so you're like, the photographer's taken care of.
Now, it sounds like you make it as easy as possible for the bride and groom.
Try to.
So, I feel I hear so much of myself in you, and it could be because we're both Leos, but, as business women, you also want to think about your support system. So I would love to know, who's kind of your biggest cheerleader? How do you, when you've had a bad day, who picks you up and supports you?
Is it bad if I don't see my husband? It's this one right here.
Yeah. Like, he does too in his own way.
Yeah.
He does.
They both play parts.
He plays his role, and he is amazing at it.
Yeah.
But honestly, I go to this one. Like, I call D.
D. Rochelle.
D is my best friend.
Yeah.
Like, if you want, let's just go back just a little bit.
Okay.
We met in the
first or second grade.
No way.
Yeah.
Yes.
We literally, it's
a thing. It's the thing.
We
met.
frolicked through flowers. We made flower
There was a
crown.
court in the back. There was our kitchen or house or whatever. while the kids
there
were
was a
playing basketball.
log. There was a log in the forest.
We were friends. And
Like,
then
it
I
was a
moved
fairy
away.
tale.
Okay.
And I found her at the DMV.
She found me at the DMV.
Get out.
So yeah, and we
and
kind
then
of
she started doing wedding photography.
Yeah,
and
we kinda
I started
kept-
doing wedding hair.
Yeah.
Then I started doing her hair. Then
Yeah.
I did her hair for her wedding.
And it just
it just kind of molded, and
it just
both of us
kept-
were kind of like not reluctant.
Yeah.
Like I remember, I was like, I think we were really good friends. We were like we were kids though,
Right.
We were
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
But like we had a really good time. But we kept it kind of just
we kept meeting.
we just kept coming
Universe
back.
kept putting it together.
Seriously.
And we always had a really easy, honest conversations. Like I really don't lie to her.
We don't lie to each other.
Definitely don't need
at
a yes
all.
man on your team.
She's
Never.
not.
No. No.
But yeah, I call this one, and she'll be honest with me, and or I'll say, hey, I need you to tell it to me straight, or we just keep it really honest and straight up.
She just says, am I tripping?
So to close,
Yes.
how do we find more information about Camille Leigh Photography? So websites, social medias, phone numbers, phone books, whatever.
You can just talk to me.
Yeah. DM me.
That's the best way to talk to me. No. But as far as social media and everything, Instagram, it's at Camille Leigh Photo. And Leigh is not Lee, it's Leigh. It's CamilleLeigh.com. And that's about it. Like, you find me on Facebook, but that's the best way to do it.
Thank you so much for coming to the GRINDSET crew and sharing your story with us. Pretty
Nice
exciting.
to be here.
So you've been listening to GRINDSET, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network, and we'll be right back after the break.
GRINDSET.
And finally, Dr. Kay Streeter.
Hello.
How are you, Doc?
I am doing fantastic. How are you?
Great. Psychologist and a boxing matchmaker.
She's a streeter fighter. Okay.
On the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Welcome back to GRINDSET. We just finished interviewing Camille Leigh Photography, and you can tell that she's found her niche and that she knows her value. And from there, I just want to share the major keys that we pulled out of this interview. And the first one is dreams evolve. Trust the process. Trying to figure out what you want to do isn't always the easiest thing, but keep trying until you find the niche that works for you. Number two, the market will always dictate your value and what you can charge. If you're a high-end photographer, there's a market for that. If you're an iPhone or Kodak photographer, there's a market for that as well. So figure out where you want to be in that process. And in addition to that, charge what you think that you're worth based on the experience that you've put in, because customers really pay for your mind and your experience. Sometimes a 9-to-5 can be a hindrance to your side hustle. And when that happens, you have to make a decision. Camille chose to go full time into her passion, into her niche. And the last thing is continuously to improve your craft. If your day 100 photos look like your day 1 photo, you probably shouldn't be taking pictures. So continue to evolve. And then lastly, once again, is be honest with yourself about your strength, your weaknesses, and sometimes structure is good for creatives.
My woman power quote for today's episode says, if you don't risk anything, you risk even more. And when I think about Camille's story, she took a lot of risks. She was the first to do a lot of things in her field, and she wasn't afraid to evolve her dream.
It's a great quote.
Thank you.
Who did that quote?
That quote is Erica Jong.
So, thank you. That was very powerful. And it basically wraps up and summarizes this episode. You've been listening to GRINDSET, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network, and we'll see you next episode.
GRINDSET. Executive producer, Epicenter. GRINDSET is directed, produced, and distributed by KUDZUKIAN.
R&R on Sports.
Pitcher, left-hander, Vita Blue. Welcome to R&R on Sports.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to see y'all. Let's get it on, man. Let's talk to
That's
baseball.
right.
Talk to sports.
It's R&R on Sports.
KUDZUKIAN.